Most of us think a lot about physical fitness. We hit the gym, we go for a run, we try to build strength in our bodies. But what about the one thing that really determines the quality of our entire life? What about our minds? Let's dive in and explore how we can start training our inner world for a little more clarity and a lot more resilience.
So today, we're going to talk all about mental fitness. And I want you to think of it exactly like physical fitness. It's a skill you can develop, a muscle you can strengthen, all through consistent training. The goal here isn't to become some kind of superhuman, but just to build resilience and clarity right where it counts the most.
And this is where it gets really interesting. We all have a pretty clear roadmap for training our bodies, right? But for our minds, most of us never get that manual. We just sort of live with the default settings, which means our attention and our resilience are often completely untrained.
And that's where something like meditation comes in, but maybe not in the way you're thinking. This isn't about emptying your mind or floating away from reality. For thousands of years, this has been understood as a super practical workout. It's a way to train your mind to see the world as it actually is, without all that extra noise and reactive thinking layered on top.
So, what is the actual problem this kind of training is designed to solve? Well, it's something we all know intimately. It's that feeling of being completely, utterly lost in thought, just caught in a never-ending internal monologue that yanks us right out of the present moment.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's replaying that one conversation from yesterday, the one where you just wish you'd said something different, and it just loops over and over and over again in your head.
Or maybe for you, it sounds more like this: constantly rehearsing a difficult conversation that hasn't even happened yet, or spinning out worrying about some future that is totally and completely out of your control.
This stream, plans, memories, judgments, worries, it can feel absolutely relentless. It's like having a radio stuck on in your head that you just can't turn off, and slowly but surely it becomes the soundtrack to your entire life. And here's the real kicker. Somewhere along the way, most of us start to believe that we are that voice in our head. We mistake all that constant chatter for who we actually are. And that, right there, is where so much of our suffering begins. Because when every single thought feels personal, every problem can feel overwhelming.
But here's the thing. This is not a new problem. Not at all. Over 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosophers in ancient Greece and Rome were already grappling with this exact issue and offered a really powerful way to think about it.
The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius just nailed it with this quote. Look, life is uncertain. Things are going to go wrong. People might let us down. But the Stoics argued that our real freedom isn't in trying to control all those outside events. It's in mastering our internal response to them. Our strength is found right here, inside our own mind. So for the Stoics, the goal was all about training for inner stability. They wanted to develop a mind that could stay steady, calm, and clear, even when the world outside was just total chaos. And that is a skill that every single one of us can learn.
Okay, so if the Stoics gave us the why, then how do we actually do it? This is where the practice comes in. It's about finding space by simply learning how to observe your mind. We're not trying to fight our thoughts, but just to see them clearly for what they are. The moment you just sit and try to watch your own mind, the first thing you notice is that everything is always moving. Thoughts just pop up out of nowhere, feelings rise and fall, sounds come and go. Nothing ever really stays for long. And this leads to the big aha moment. While all those thoughts and feelings are constantly changing, the awareness in which they appear is always steady. It's just there, calm, spacious, kind of like the sky behind the passing clouds. Just recognizing this one thing can give you a huge sense of perspective. So, the practice itself is incredibly simple. You can do it right now. Step 1, just notice a thought as it appears in your mind. Step 2, watch as that thought eventually just fades or changes all on its own. And step 3, notice the quiet, steady awareness that's still there in the gap before the next thought arrives. That's it. That is the entire workout.
Now, when you do this regularly, even for a few minutes, you are building that mental fitness we talked about. Seriously, just like lifting weights builds physical strength, this simple practice builds strength in your attention and in your ability to stay centered. And the results are so practical. You start to develop the ability to see a worried thought without immediately getting swept away by it. You gain this skill to remain calm when things get tough. And maybe most importantly, you create just enough space to respond to life deliberately, instead of just reacting on autopilot all the time.
And let's be super clear.
This isn't just about feeling good when you're meditating. The real value, the real payoff of this training shows up in the middle of a stressful day, or during a difficult conversation, or right at that moment when you feel anger or anxiety starting to rise up. It gives you that split second to pause and choose how you want to respond.
And you know what the best part is? You do not need to dedicate hours to this. A few minutes a day is honestly all it takes to get started. Just like any other kind of training, it's the consistency that really matters. And even a small, regular practice can start to fundamentally change the relationship you have with your own mind.
So if there's one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. The goal is not to stop your thoughts. The goal is to see them for what they really are. They're just events happening in your consciousness. They aren't commands you have to obey or facts you must believe. They're just passing weather in the sky of your mind.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. If you weren't constantly being pulled around by every thought and every feeling, what could you accomplish? What could you achieve with a mind that's just a little bit calmer and a little bit clearer?